I'm Amy, and I have my service dog Dixie over here, and so I just wanted to talk to you about myself. So I am 28 years old, and I have been struggling most of my life with some type of undiagnosed chronic illnesses. From a young age, I've had joint issues and different pains. I've had migraines. I've had anxiety attacks. I'm trying to think of all things, and many other things. So I have a lot of gastro issues too. Yay, those are fun. But so I've struggled with a lot of different things throughout my life, and I've really never been able to attribute it to anything or another. I've had doctors run tests and they always come back normal. I've been to, I've never really been to specialists before until now, but I've been on a medical journey most of my life. Actually, it was quite entertaining this past Christmas when I turned 28. My mom brought out we have baby boxes with all kinds of things throughout the years of things, and I was looking through a scrapbook of stuff I made, and this poem I wrote in like middle school, I talked about my aches and pains, and my mom just looked at me and she's like, wow, I didn't know it goes all the way back then, because we've been going through this like medical history of when things really started and what could have been the initiating event and different things like that. So far I still don't have any concrete answers as to what is going on with me, but I do have some very intriguing leads. And those are thanks to many of you YouTubers that actually were showing off your different, talking about your symptoms and the things that you've had, and it's really helped me come to understand I might pursue some of these as possible things, because it seems to have some systematic different things that you really have to put all the pieces together to understand the condition. So I have an appointment for 6 months from now to see a geneticist who specializes in Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, or EDS. It's a connective tissue disorder, and they're going to do a genetic test or a blood test, or sequence your genome and look for the different types of EDS, which I think I most likely have the hypermobility type, because I can do things like that, and other things don't do that because it hurts. It doesn't hurt me, but it eventually will catch up to you. So don't do party tricks like that, even if you can. But and then I'm going to a gastroenterologist this next week, and I'll hopefully post a video about that, and a cardiologist. So I'm going to the gastroenterologist for a couple different reasons. My dad actually has Crohn's disease, so that is a big factor in why I need to go to one and talk to them. But I don't have what I would consider any of the Crohn's markers. I've never had any inflammation come back on blood tests. I've never had, I think it's like a sediment level or something they check as well. So none of those markers ever showed up for me. But I have had like diarrhea, constipation, nausea, vomiting. My mom always said I ate like a bird and I grazed like a cow, because I would leave like 3/4 of my plate empty, or not empty, but full, and only eat like little portions, but then I would eat those little portions throughout the day, but they're really tiny portions. But so I've done that for years. So I always thought I was just like hypoglycemic or something like that, but I was always getting back to normal, of course. So I was just like, well, maybe I just have a really high metabolism and something like that. I found every way to reason it out, but so I don't know what it is with the gastro stuff. I have ideas, but I'm not gonna put them out there for you guys, because honestly with the gastro stuff it can be any number of different things and I don't want to even speculate. As for why I'm going to see a cardiologist, I have always had a little bit of, I've always been out of breath, as you can tell, and I always attribute it to, well, after I got asthma, I was attributed to asthma, but even before I had asthma, top of the flight of stairs, I was always out of breath. And I have been like the most active person you can imagine. I have taken up just about every sport, only kept it on for a little while because I'd always get eventually very tired and just couldn't keep it up like everybody else could. But I mean, I've had chronic fatigue for as long as all these other things have been going on, so that always is kind of a problem. But I've lived, unfortunately, off coffee and energy drinks trying to keep up with everybody else, and that is not what you should do. But we all have our own coping mechanisms for how we get through life, and when nobody could tell me what was wrong with me, I had to do something to keep up, so I just did what I could. But anyways, with the cardiologist is, so my heart rate has, it spikes when I stand up. So I have a resting rate of around 51, 54-ish. The minute I stand up, it will go up to about 90, sometimes more. I take a walk, I take Dixie out for her walk, and it will be 120s, 130s. I tried to, I used to do a lot of bodybuilding, and I never thought high heart rate was a big thing, because you're in your gym, you expect to have a high heart rate. When I started actually looking at my heart rate recently, when I got I have an Apple Watch, the Series 4, and started looking at how high my heart rate was going, I was working out at 180, which if anybody knows, that's like my age minus 220, it's pretty close to your max heart rate, so that was really bad. I always had trainers in the past who were like, told me that I needed to not work so hard because my heart rate was always really high when I was working out, and I thought, I'm just working out really hard, so it's easy to explain away when you're working out because high heart rate's always a good thing there, but I never really noticed it when I was just doing normal day things. But I was always so tired every day, and sleep just never helped, and yeah, I never could do a job where I stood up on my feet for 8 hours a day, because I would just come home and literally collapse, and even like just short amounts of time I just really can't. But and I'd get dizzy. I've definitely seen stars. I have never once passed out. I am very proud of that fact because it has been really hard. I guess that would have helped me find something sooner, but I've been dizzy every time I stand up and seeing stars, and I thought all of this was normal because I'm very good at explaining things away. So when I was a kid in church, you stand up and you do up and down a lot, and so I would just want to stay sitting. My mom would always kind of prod me and be like, get up, you're supposed to stand up. But I would stand up and I'd get really dizzy, so I'd grab onto the chair in front of me and just hold on, and my eyes would black out and then eventually come back in about a couple seconds, and then it'd be fine. And you know, for me, that was normal. So not great, but that was my normal, so I didn't know you weren't supposed to do that. And so anyways, last Thanksgiving, my sister brought home a virus from her mission trip that she took. She was really ill on a mission trip herself, but brought it back to all of us at the house, and I got sick with that, and it was this horrible, like, flu-like thing, but it only lasted like a day. So I got it on Thanksgiving night. The whole entire night I had fever, chills, body aches, all of that funness that you get. No vomiting or any of that, but it was just that one night. The next day I was always severely tired, but I was okay. My body was just, tired and achy from that night of not sleeping. But again, I got a cough from that as well, and if you're an asthmatic, having a cough as an asthmatic is always a bad thing. Cough stayed with me for over a month, and the virus, symptoms, I thought at the time, stayed with me for a month, and I went to the doctor, and they were like, well, it's virus, it's nothing we can do for it. They tried to give me something for they gave an extra inhaler for my asthma stuff to help with the cough, and we're like, that's all we can do for now. And so, I've been really fighting that for a while, for just that whole month, and it was really, really tiring, because literally I'd felt fatigue all my life, but it was manageable fatigue. This was a whole new level of fatigue. And then I started noticing, I think largely when I got new fitness trackers, I was tracking my heart rate a lot, because I'd had one that wasn't tracking the heart rate right, so I'd always look at it to make sure that it was actually tracking the heart rate, and I started looking at it and I'm like, why is my heart rate so high all the time? This makes no sense. And so I talked to the doctor, I didn't talk to the doctor at that point, but I went over for Christmas, and my dad gets an infusion every 8 weeks. So the nurse was there doing a home infusion, and I was there during that time. So he does it upstairs, and I usually stay downstairs because I hate stairs, as you can imagine. So I went upstairs, and I've been playing around with my watch and looking at heart rates and different things. So I went up to the top of the stairs, and I looked at my heart rate, and it was 140. And I said that out loud, and I was like, hey Dad, look, I got a new high. And the nurse just looked at me like, you're crazy. She thought I was talking about somebody else or something like that. Then I started talking to him about how my heart rate's been high and all this, and she looks at me and she's like, you were talking about you when you were talking about 140? She's like, you need to get that checked out. That's not normal. So anyways, just to make sure that I wasn't my watch wasn't messed up or anything, she gave me one of the finger monitors for heart rate, had me go walk back down the stairs and then back up, and then take my heart rate at the top of the stairs just to prove that the watch wasn't incorrect. And yeah, it was still 140. So this is very accurate. And that was the start of my so what I've come to believe it is so far, but I haven't been to the cardiologist yet, so obviously personal opinion here, and Google searches and YouTube people and all the fun you can find on the internet, so not medical opinion here, but I think it's POTS, is post-orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, because whenever I'm laying down and just, sitting in a chair or something like right now, my heart rate is, let's see, it'll take a minute because this thing takes forever, but it's usually about 60 or 70. Like I said, when I stand up, it can be anywhere from 90 to 120. And that's if 90 is not doing anything standing, 120 to 130 is walking. So, let's see, it's 78 right now, so that's kind of high for me sitting, but I am here, blogging, so that's a lot of talking, which can elevate your heart rate a bit. Plus I'm nervous. But yeah, so that I think it's probably POTS. But the cardiologist will have to run the test and figure it out, and they'll let me know. Same thing with the gastro person. And hopefully the geneticist will let me know what's going on too. But that's essentially where I'm at right now, is a bunch of undiagnosed chronic illnesses, but there's hope, because I finally have gotten to a point where I'm exhibiting symptoms enough that people will actually take me seriously, which, if any of you suffer with invisible illnesses, you know what I mean, because it can be a rough journey of just dealing with things that normal people don't deal with, and having people just sort of blow you off because they think you're faking or you're over-exaggerating or something. So when I say, you know, diagnosable things, it's because I have actual symptoms I can show to people in like anytime, anywhere, which is exciting and scary at the same time. But I'm hopeful that this next week will be illuminating at least. And then, you know, 6 months from now, when I finally get to see the geneticist, then I will be able to see if I have Ehlers-Danlos or not, or, you know, what's going on otherwise. But, you know, there's a bit of history about me and what I'm going through. Also, if anyone wants to know what I'm currently training a service dog for, so obviously to have a service dog you have to have a disability. Since I just told you I have a bunch of undiagnosed things, obviously I can't train her. Well, I could train her for them, but she wouldn't be a true service dog without a disability. So when I first started training her, none of this stuff was going on. Well, it was going on, but I didn't know it was actually a problem at the time. I had been diagnosed with anxiety, depression, and OCD in college. And what really was weird is when I was training her for anxiety, when I was doing anxiety alerts, she was alerting a lot more than what I was expecting, and I'm like, that was kind of when I started to notice the heart rate stuff. But the big tell for me with that, and when I started sort of cross-training her, was I was in a store, and I was just, you know, walking through a store. Obviously now I know if it is POTS, it's, you know, it's obviously a big thing because it's a lot of walking and standing, and it can cause your, you know, heart rate to rise a lot. But I'd always got really shaky when I was in a store, and by the time I was handing my card to the cashier, my hand was shaking so bad I could barely hold it. And I was like, am I really this anxious? Like, I don't feel anxious. I just feel like my heart beating crazy and my hands are shaking and I can't control it. And I was like, I don't have like racing thoughts. I'm not anxious about the people around me or any of this. It felt wrong. And then the other thing was I went to a therapist, and I tried to go to a therapist to talk about my anxiety stuff because it was when that was getting worse and I was worried about it, and I was like, I need to go talk to someone. And one, she was a really, really bad therapist, but that was beside the point. But she was talking about anxiety in a way, you know, I was like, you know, she was like, you know, none of it can hurt you and all these times, like, and I'm like, I'm not worried about it hurting me. Like, I was like, I felt so wrong in that position. Like, she was talking about all these things that I didn't feel. And I was like, I don't know if I really have anxiety, because it doesn't sound like, you know, I have any of these problems. But anyways, so that's how I first started training Dixie. Obviously now, I'm having her train for high heart rate alerts and to do some light mobility work, like picking up items and such. She's obviously too small for, you know, full mobility work and too old. But yeah, so that's all about me and my chronic illnesses to be diagnosed, hopefully. But anyways, thanks guys for tuning in, and you know, subscribe and like us, and we'll have more videos up about service dog training and such. Bye!